So as you can see here, we are defining a variable called x, and we are assigning this value, 5, to this variable. So this is called assignment operator. But when it comes to these variable names, there are some rules. Rule number 1 is this, that these variable names cannot start with numbers. So for example, you cannot say 1x or 2x or 3x or whatever. So rule number 1 is that these variable names cannot start with numbers. And rule number 2 is that you cannot use special characters such as, for example, ampersand, such as, for example, $sign, or the other things, for example, hyphen and other stuff. The only special character that you can use and you are allowed to use in these variable names is underline. So you can use underline, but you can't use other special characters in the name of a variable. Rule number 3 is that you cannot use Python keywords for the names of the variables. For example, there are some Python keywords such as if or for example, while, lambda, and some other stuff that you cannot use for variable names. And maybe you ask, oh, should I memorize those stuff? No, you should not memorize. As you go through this step-by-step tutorial playlist, you will see those Python keywords, and actually you will gradually memorize them by osmosis. So you don't need to memorize them, for example, by repeating them 10 times. No, you don't need to do that. So anyway, remember that the names of the variable cannot be Python keywords. This is another rule that you should be aware of. Rule number 4 is that Python is case sensitive. What do I mean by case sensitive? For example, there is a difference between x, small x, and capital X. So for example, here we have two variables, small x and capital X, lowercase and uppercase. So Python is case sensitive. These are two different variables. They are not the same. So remember that Python is case sensitive. And also let's mention another thing as well. I have said that you can use underline in the names of the variables. For example, this is a valid thing. This is a valid variable name. And also, for example, this is a valid variable name in Python. If you run this code, Python is not going to raise any errors. So this is a valid code. But it is not suggested to use these kinds of things. For example, here I have put 5 underlines. This is not suggested. Of course, you can do so, and it is allowed, and Python is not going to raise any error, but it is not very beautiful. This kind of naming is not very beautiful. 5 underlined before, but it is allowed. If you are asking about whether it is allowed or not, yes, it is allowed, but it is not beautiful to put, for example, 5 underlines before the name of a variable. But technically, it is allowed, and Python is not going to raise any problem because, as we said, you can use underline in the names of the variables. This was one of the videos of a step-by-step tutorial playlist of Python. You can find the link to that playlist in the description below. And also, we have other playlists for other topics, which you can find them on the channel page.